Hey guys, back again. So I'm going to do something different today on this channel, and I'm going to review all 20 so movies I watched in the last month. I have just been busy. It's been a weird month, and it's been hard to keep up. And I don't know. I really love to review stuff, but it's hard to do like single reviews like every and upload them all the time. For me personally, because of the internet I've got, which is pretty crappy, and also um, it's just working full-time job, like doing that and this is just a lot. So I'm gonna today just review every movie that I've got right here. I don't care how long the video lasts. Let's do it. And also I'm gonna do my pickups as well. Because again, like I said, been busy. It's been a long month. So let's get started. There's going to be a lot of Joe Bob Briggs Last Drive-In episodes because his show just had its third season and it just ended. Haven't got all the way through. I haven't watched the Roger Corman episodes, which she just did this week. Um, but I watched every other one for this season. So first off is a Joe Bob Briggs Last Drive-In ep, which is Ginger Snaps, and Ginger Snaps stars Catherine Isabel, and I don't remember the other girl's name, but they're both two girls who are going through that phase, thinking about death all the time, which is pretty interesting and bizarre. But one of them gets bitten by a werewolf, and the thing I liked about Ginger Snaps, I thought it was actually really good. I wasn't not surprised because I've heard good praise about Ginger Snaps, but I really enjoyed it. I like the fact that it connected to these characters who are women with their menstrual cycle, which I thought was something that some people might be offended by, but some people might not be. I thought that was interesting, just the fact that it connected in that way to a woman because of what a woman has to do every month. I think that that's fascinating. I like that idea, just using that and using the idea of a werewolf, and phases of whenever a werewolf turns into a werewolf. I don't know if that's offensive to some people. It might be. Not trying to offend anybody. I just think that's kind of a cool idea. I have not seen any of the Ginger Snaps sequels yet. I know there's two other ones. Have not seen them. I thought this just did a good job of being a good werewolf movie. It was really interesting. The acting's really good. I think it's a fascinating movie. I was really fascinated and enjoyed Ginger Snaps first watch. Um, then I rewatched He Knows You're Alone, which I got the Scream Factory release back there somewhere. The first movie starring Tom Hanks, which is this is again a slasher movie in 1981. It's either 80 or 81. I'm really blanking. I usually am good at these years, but I think it's 80 or 81. I think it's 80. It's got to be 1980. But it's about a person who's getting married and she is being stalked by a killer who is slashing off her friends. And of course, it's a slasher. I enjoy slasher movies because they're just so ridiculous and over the top. This one, I liked it more on rewatch. I thought that it was more effective on rewatch. The first time I watched He Knows You're Alone, I had the mindset of people saying this is just like Halloween, 1978, the original Halloween, and it it has a lot of plain shots of the killer, just like Michael Myers in the original Halloween, like him at a distance, him in the bushes, like all this stuff. It very much just copy and replicates it, which I thought isn't a thing that annoyed me, but it's just kind of cheap in terms of slashers, which were in 1980. Slashers were created a dime a dozen. We got hundreds of slashers in the early 80s and throughout the 80s, but the early 80s was the grand time for slashers. Whenever Friday the 13th was released, everything just went off, and we had all these gigantic lists of slashers. And I really love the 80s slashers. I can watch any of them. I think that even if they're bad, I can enjoy them. This one I thought was middle of the road. I liked the main character. I didn't think it wasn't very interesting with the kills, but it was solid enough with a character that you can root for, that you want to survive, and it did a good job of being just competent enough, but it's not a great slasher, but I did enjoy it on rewatch. Um, and then I watched Smoke and Mirrors, which is the Tom Savini story. This is about Tom Savini and his life and where he started, where he's at now. And this movie really got me. I really like this because Tom Savini does a lot of, he does a lot of fantastic effects. And of course, there's movies that everybody talks about: Friday the 13th, The Burning, Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, The Prowler. Um, the Burning is probably one of my absolute favorites. Oh, yeah, Maniac, too. He did Maniac as well. But I really, really thought this documentary was fascinating because it's really cool whenever you see the story of a person in charge of this stuff, like an effects person, a practical effects person. And what's really interesting about Tom Savini is that this he went to war, he saw dozens of actual dead bodies in real life and filmed that or took pictures of them, um, and he used that for his inspiration for practical effects. And it is just very interesting because I don't have the stomach for that at all. Any horror movie I can watch anything gross happen in a horror movie. In real life, I can't take it. It's too much for me. But in horror movies, because they're not real, I can watch anything. But real life stuff, he came from that. He came from seeing all this real life stuff and use this as practical effects, or use that as inspiration for practical effects in his movies. And I love seeing his point of view of life, of how he was always into movies, and the fact that you see him through everything with his family, everything that happened, him losing his dad, him seeing his dad after he had been dead for a couple hours, and just watched him and studied him. And I know people think that's kind of strange, and to me it's something I could not do, but I really like the fact that he said he watched his dad and he said, "This is not my dad anymore. My dad is gone." And I just thought that it was such an interesting like thing to say, and I really thought it was fascinating seeing it from that point of view of somebody, of him doing that. And I really just enjoyed this a lot. It was really well done, and it was just a really cool way to see one of my favorite practical effects of slashers in the 80s. Like, it's cool to see a whole thing about him. So I really liked Smoke and Mirrors. I thought it was pretty awesome. Next up, last drive-in episode, I watched Next of Kin. Next of Kin was this movie about a woman who is in charge of an old folks' home, and then all this creepy stuff happens, and it's an Australian horror movie, and it was really, it's weird. I saw this a month ago, so I'm kind of blanking on it, but I really remember thinking that this was really creepy and effective, and it did a lot of different stuff. It felt like I'm not really remembering what, but I remembered it being a pretty unique horror movie, and I felt like being in Australia, they kind of did a different take on a typical horror movie like this in this time period. So Next of Kin I remember liking, and I remember liking the ending. Another Joe Bob Briggs, Last Drive-In, Fried Berry. Fried Berry is a new Shudder original that just, or I guess it's a month old, or 2 months old, something like that. But Fried Berry is about a stoner druggie named Barry who gets infected by an alien. Like an alien takes over his body and takes him for a ride everywhere. And this was really fun. Like, I really liked Fried Berry, and I liked how it's not really, it's a horror movie, but like it's not completely one. It's more of just a ridiculously weird movie, and it's funny and it's entertaining. Like, for example, with this alien taking over Barry, this alien who has sex with a woman, she instantly becomes pregnant. She instantly has the baby in like 2 minutes. And then whenever he comes back later in the movie and sees her again, the baby is the same age as Barry is. It looks just like him, and so it's like a 50-year-old man, 40-year-old man, which is really, really hilarious. I thought the movie just did a good job of being really bizarre and really fun. Like, I liked Fried Berry. And then I watched another movie that was like Smoke and Mirrors, which was about, this one is about Kane Hodder, To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story, which I had not seen before. So this one's interesting because I want to mention that I met Kane Hodder a couple years ago at a con. Really, really nice guy. Like, I took a picture with him. He put his hand on my shoulder to take the picture. He covered my face, and he just kept pushing on my face, like, "Is this right?" Like he was just blocking my view on purpose just to make me laugh, and I laughed. I thought he is such a great, nice dude. It was so cool to meet him. That'd be cool if I meet him again at a con, but I'm glad I at least met him once. But he was so nice and so genuine, and I really like how he loves his fans. And I didn't say much because I was nervous because I never met any actors before, and I thought that calmed me down. That was really awesome. But this movie is about Kane Hodder's story. Like the Tom Savini one, this is about Kane Hodder. Um, it's really raw because this does a great job of how Kane Hodder has suffered through life because he, at my age right now, at 27 years old, did a fire stunt and severely burned himself and almost died, has contemplated suicide, and had all this horrible stuff happen to him because of that, of what happened. And I really love that it is a raw thing. It is a raw because the way that he reacts, the way that he talks about this is so horrible, and it made me really sad watching this guy who's gone through this stuff. Hearing this made me feel horrible. But the thing I love about this is that he tells the horrible things that has happened to him. But by the end of this, I love the fact that it is a happy story. Like he had suffered, like everybody in the world suffers over something throughout their life, and he had suffered horribly with that severe burn and all of that. And I like there's a thing that he says where he was angry at everybody, almost wanted to commit suicide because he was burnt. He was scared. He didn't want to live through this anymore. And the fact that he sees this guy at this hospital that he's at whenever he was getting treated, and he hated this guy because he was so happy, and he didn't understand why he was so happy. But then one day, like he said, he lifted his arms up, and that guy had severe burns all through his arms, and he was happy. And Kane said to himself, like, if he's happy, I should be happy. And I think it's so inspirational that he went through all this horrible, horrible stuff with what happened. But by the end of the documentary, he says, like, if I committed suicide, I would have missed everything. I would have missed everything that happened after the bad parts. And I love that. I love that is a great, just a great thing with the idea of whenever you're down in life, you don't take the hard route out, and or the easy route out. And Kane Hodder had a horrible situation, but I love the fact that this is kind of an inspiring thing to people who are down in life. They should keep going. And of course, I believe you should just keep going no matter how hard life is. I just had a grandfather die, and I felt horrible for like a month about it. And that's of course not the same dilemma as Kane Hodder, but I felt horrible dealing with that. But I always knew throughout that there's always still a positive. You're never gonna just be miserable your whole life. You're gonna get out of something horrible, and that's what you say to yourself, like, you're gonna get out of this, and you do. And I just thought this was a great documentary because of that. Like, it was just such a raw, great thing by Kane Hodder to open up and tell this story and how great life is for him now. I love that. I think that's fantastic. Really recommend the Helen back. That's an awesome one. And again, Kane Hodder, if you've met him or if you've seen him on interviews, he's so awesome and so genuine. Really great documentary. Definitely recommend it. The next movie I watched was Eyes of a Stranger, which is a slasher from 1981. I bought the Scream Factory as well. That came out with He Knows You're Alone at the same time. Or I got them both released at the same time to me. Eyes of a Stranger is interesting because it's a slasher that has a deaf and mute character, and by the end of the movie, this deaf and mute character has to survive throughout. And I think it's really suspenseful because of that. Whenever you've got a character in a situation like that, where they have handicaps, where this person could clearly get them, but then they have to survive. And I like that it really was effective with that. And I'm trying to remember who the person was. There was one person who starred in this, and I'm blanking on it. I'm going to get it right here. I'm not cutting this. And where is it? Eyes of a Stranger, right here. Right here. It's got Jennifer Jason Leigh. I was blanking on who it was, but Jennifer Jason Leigh stars in this as a deaf and blind girl who has to ward off a killer at the end of the movie, and that's great. And I like that the movie is scary and effective, and the performance by Jennifer Jason Leigh is fantastic, and it was really solid as a thriller. Like, I enjoyed Eyes of a Stranger. Um, Definitely, I think that's one I definitely would recommend as well. Um, and then let's be lighthearted and talk about Peter Rabbit and Peter Rabbit 2, those animated Sony movies. Well, they're live action with animation CG for the animals. But Peter Rabbit 2 is coming out, so I watched the first Peter Rabbit. I rented it, and it was a really good, surprisingly good kids movie. I was actually really genuinely surprised in how hilarious it was. Like, it was very unique, I honestly am going to say, for a kids movie. It had all the kids movie tropes in it. Like, it had pop music, it had silly hijinks, but they were done so well. Like, it felt like a Looney Tunes cartoon from like the 30s or 40s. Or maybe I'd say 50s or 60s, not 30s, 40s. That's more like, that's not the same. But anyways, I thought that they really did a fantastic job of making that Peter Rabbit movie really, really hilarious, really heartwarming, really funny. Um, it's got two different people that I really enjoy in movies, Domino Gleeson and Rose Byrne, and they both have great chemistry. They're both hilarious. I laughed so hard at the first Peter Rabbit, so I really enjoyed it. And then, of course, Peter Rabbit 2, I just watched today in the theater. I was excited for it, and it's weird because this one is a lesser movie than the first one. There's a lot of there's not a lot. There's a good amount of moments throughout that are good, and then there's a good amount of moments in it where it's just kind of felt like it was lame kids movie. But it still had a lot that was warranted for a watch for me. Like, I did like Peter Rabbit 2. I thought that it had a good set of humor as well, like it did for the first one. The chemistry is still spot on. The humor is still spot on, for the most part. The third act is really good. I feel like it just kind of dragged at the beginning where it wasn't as well written as the first Peter Rabbit, but I still think Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway, was still a fun, enjoyable enough movie. I did enjoy this one. And then I watched Army of the Dead on Netflix, the new Zack Snyder movie with Dave Bautista. And I watched this a couple weeks ago. I don't remember it that well. I remember enjoying it. I think that it did a good job of being a cool, different zombie movie where they have the zombie outbreak happen, but it was contained just in Vegas, and people are living their normal lives throughout Vegas, like people who aren't zombies. And Dave Bautista and the gang go and do a heist. And I just think that that's really unique and really cool in the zombie genre. And it's not connected to Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, which is a great zombie movie, but his remake of Dawn of the Dead. But it's not connected to that. It's its own thing. I thought the movie just did a really good job of being really unique for being a zombie movie, but also it had a good amount of heart to it. It had a good amount with Dave Bautista, with him and his daughter. It had a good ending. Like, the ending really worked. I think that it was really, really solid. I really enjoyed Army of the Dead. Then I freaking watched Macabre, which is a Lamberto Bava movie, from the, I don't even know if it was 80s. It might have been 70s. This is hard to explain. These Giallo movies are just insane. This one starts out with it's basically a porn, and basically really, really violent at the beginning. So you get all the exploitative stuff in Macabre, but it starts out with this woman having sex with another guy, and then a blind guy downstairs hears them have sex the whole time, and then there's a child that drowns another child, and then the mom hears about it, so she runs with the lover to drive, and then while they're driving, a piece of scaffolding cuts the lover in half, so the mom is flipping out even more, and then throughout the movie, she's trying to have sex with that blind guy, but also she's got the head of the lover in a fridge, and she acts like he's still alive, and it is so insanely ridiculous. Like, it was pretty funny. Like, I did enjoy it. I didn't love it, but I thought that alone, like, that just ridiculousness, exploitiveness of this movie, like, I was genuinely floored at how funny and just ridiculous it was, because it was so over the top with everything. With everything that horror movies give. And this one really was a good exploitation in that way, but it wasn't great, but it was still solid enough. Then I watched What's the Matter with Helen, which stars Debbie Reynolds and Shelley Winters. And of course, Debbie Reynolds is awesome, and she's really, really beautiful. Whenever she was pretty whenever she's older too, but I didn't realize that she was this awesome and beautiful in the whenever she's this young. And I'm gonna have another Debbie Reynolds movie on here later, but this is about Helen. This girl has a mental problem, and she is going crazy while her and her friend Debbie Reynolds' character started tap dancing class. And it sounds weird enough, but the movie is really effective, and I think that it's a slow burn. And by the end, in the last couple minutes, it really sticks with you. It's a good way to end this horror movie. Like I still remember it, even though the artwork for the movie and the poster for it just kind of spoil it. Like the ending of the movie is in the poster art, which is kind of silly. But regardless, I really enjoyed it for the performances. They both were really good. It was just a fun, solid thriller, or horror. I guess it's more of a thriller up until the end. Then it goes full on like horror movie. But it's cool to see Debbie Reynolds in this as well, in a horror movie. I don't know if she's done any other ones, but this was cool seeing her in this. Then another Joe Bob Briggs episode, Class of 1984, which is not a horror. It's more like a thriller where it's about this teacher who moves to a new school where the school has all these kids who are thugs and are taking care of, or that are in charge of the school. Like all these guys are in charge of the school that are the kids who go there. And it becomes a game of cat and mouse where the teacher gets threatened by all these horrible kids who are doing horrible things. And I'll tell you what, it really builds up really well. And I have seen Class of 1999. I didn't know this was I think it's a sequel technically, but it's not like the same characters. But I know there's Class of 1984 and Class of 1999. But this worked really well as being a good thriller. Like I was actually genuinely shocked in a lot of ways, and I really liked the ending because the ending was so rewarding, and it worked. And that's what makes it more of a thriller than a horror, because it does end in a way that I did like a lot. It felt rewarding. Then I watched Joe Bob Briggs, another episode, Maniac Cop 2. I watched Maniac Cop 1 as well, but and I rewatched that one. I've seen Maniac Cop 1 before, and I liked it again with Bruce Campbell and Tom Atkins. I thought Maniac Cop 1 was really fun on rewatch. Or I take it back. It was fun, but it was not a one I'm going to rewatch much. I've seen it before, but it's definitely not one I want to see that much again. Like, I don't get the urge to rewatch Maniac Cop. Even though it's got good casting, and I do like the movie, it's not one I rewatch much. But Maniac Cop 2 is a first watch on his show that I watched as well. And Maniac Cop 2, people always said is better than the first, and I agree with it. It's weird because the first one, I like the characters more, the two, Bruce Campbell and Tom Atkins. But in the second one, the action, thrills, and the overall just fun of Maniac Cop 2 is way more fun than the first one. But the first one is still solid enough. But I was genuinely surprised. It's one of the sequels that are better than the original in my eyes. I really like Maniac Cop 2. It just really did a good job of being really entertaining. And then, okay, here's the other Debbie Reynolds movie. So I marked this off my list of movies I wanted to see because I have not seen Singing in the Rain. And I like some musicals, but I saw this on HBO Max. I'm like, I'm going to watch this because I have not seen it before. Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds. It's not a movie that I'm going to rewatch again because I'm not really into this type of musical. Like, the music's fine, but it's not like a Disney one. Disney ones I can rewatch. But it's a really, really fantastic movie. Like, I at first was being cynical. I'm like, no, I'm not going to rate this that high because everybody else does. But man, by the end of the movie, I was kind of floored by just how good of a movie it was. It's not one I'm going to rewatch much ever, but I really liked it. I thought it was great. Great movie. And then I watched Luca, which is a movie on Disney Plus, the new Disney Pixar movie, about the kid who's a water creature, and like he goes on land with another kid and they become human, unless they get water splashed on them. And this is really interesting because this one was dumped on Disney Plus. They could have put this in theaters now, but they didn't want to because I'm afraid that they were afraid of having an IP that wasn't that big. So they probably just thought, we're just going to dump this on Disney Plus like Soul did. Like, because Soul did fine, I guess. I don't know. but I really like Soul as well. But they put it on Disney Plus, and I felt like that was kind of an insult to the animators because it's like this movie I felt like should have been seen in theaters because it is beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. At first, I wasn't really into the character designs because they were so un-Pixar to me. The only other one I think that's different like this is like The Good Dinosaur, but this really did a good job of being a really solid, fun kids movie, and I did like it. I thought it was really sweet and just fun, and these characters were really just engaging and fun. And Pixar does this even with their lesser movies, where like they're still charming and likable characters. Um, Again, the movie's gorgeous. The characters are good. There's a good humor in it too. Voice acting is good. Jacob Tremblay, Jack Dylan Glazer as the kids, and then Maya Rudolph is the mom. Um, and Sacha Baron Cohen has a performance as well. They're pretty brief, but I really liked a lot of things about Luca. I thought it was really fun and enjoyable. Um, and this I watched like a long time ago. I don't remember much about this one, but I watched Lucky, which had Bray Grant in it, who I really like. She's a good actress, and I saw her in The Stylist a couple months ago at that film fest I went to, which is now everywhere. They've even got an Arrow release for it. It was basically Maniac if it was a girl. Like that's basically the movie, but it was totally still awesome. But Lucky is about a woman getting stalked. Doesn't know who it is. Keeps coming back. She tries to kill him, and then he just disappears every time. And then the movie is basically just that, but it does a good job of being a good thriller. And I think that it's a movie that kind of turns some people off because it's a lot of just messages about like masculinity or messages about um, it could be any guy kind of thing, like hurting a woman, like kind of story. And I'm fine with that. Like I feel like those messages are valid and should be put in movies like this because there's horrifying things that just happen to women. So it's something that should be addressed and should be put in movies. But some people get turned off by that whenever the message is strong or whatever. And it wasn't extremely like strong in this. It by the end at the end it was, but it never really felt like it was over the top like something like Black Christmas, like 2019, where it's like extremely over the top of this feminism. But this was not. This was well done, and I did like Lucky. Um, and then I watched today. I also watched on the last drive-in Spookies, which is a 1986. Well, it's 1986, but it also was made like earlier, and they redid it. 90% of the movie was made, then they dumped the people involved and got a porn actress to get other people involved, and all these porn actors are in the movie. And Spookies is terrible, is what I'm trying to say. It is. I didn't even know what the hell happened in this movie. It was about these people that go to this big mansion. There's this undead guy who's trying to resurrect his undead girlfriend, wife, but she wants to die because she's undead, and she's like, I'm not alive anymore. I want to rest. And then all this random shit starts happening. There's a woman that like, there's this Asian woman that comes up to this guy. He's just randomly entrapped in a web. She becomes a giant-ass spider. There's the Grim Reaper with this big scythe that just runs and chases people around. It's very, very weird. And then you've got these muck monsters, which reminds me of if you ever read Goosebumps, that one Goosebumps cover where it was like the monsters coming out of the mud. It looked like that. But these muck monsters in this movie fart a lot randomly. Like, for some reason, they just start farting. I don't know why. That's Spookies. Spookies is a horror movie that I have never seen before, and I will give it credit. This is not a horror movie that I have seen before done in this way. But I didn't like it at all. I couldn't stand it, but I will give it credit. It is not a movie that I have seen before. The effects are good as well. Like, it's got some good effects, but really not a fan of Spookies. Then all I have left is a couple more rewatches in the last drive-in, because again, the whole season 3, rewatch Mother's Day, which I thought I liked a little more on rewatch. Mother's Day was a little more over the top for me and fun for me this watch. House by the Cemetery, Lucio Fulci. I've enjoyed this one already. I think it's a really fun really fun giallo. Like it's got that terrible dubbing of that Bob kid. Like it's horrible. Like just have it's a full fledged adult voicing a like 5-year-old kid, or maybe he's 5. I don't remember. Whatever. And then Bride of Reanimator, which was fun, and I liked rewatching that one. Jeffrey Combs came on that episode, which is cool. Cool to see him. Um, then the last one I rewatched was Mandy, and Mandy, this is the second time I've watched Mandy. It went up a little for me in terms of like entertainment. I liked Mandy on first watch. At first watch, for some reason, I thought it was too long, and it is still kind of long to me, but it worked a little better in favor for me. Like I enjoyed the first half more. The first half was what I was kind of annoyed with the first watch. I just thought it was a little too long. It was a little too just like I usually like slow burns, but Mandy for some reason the first watch didn't do it for me. But the second watch I enjoyed it more on the first half, which is slower than the second half. The second half I liked already because it's Nicolas Cage going around with a chainsaw and just doing random weapons, just like offing these people who took Mandy away from him. So I still enjoy the second act, but yeah, that's pretty much it on all my rewatches. Watches and rewatches for the month. Like I said, been busy. It's been a weird month. It's just been an annoying. I'm just ready to get this month over with, and then I've got my pickups, which is a lot of video games and movies. So I know video games are not really the thing I talk about much on here, but I'm going to show them off anyway. Went to an antique flea market and I got Dr. Mario 64, which I really enjoy. It's like Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, but it's a little tougher. And that Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is tough as shit, and I still haven't beat it, but still. Then Lego Ninjago. I like these Lego games. They're easy trophies on PS4 to play. Then I went on a little PSP collecting binge, so I got 3, and they were cheap. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This South Park When Technology Attacks. It's just 5 episodes that are technology oriented from South Park, which is fine. I've seen them all before, but it's cool to have it on there. And then I got High Tension, which I have not seen. Want to see High Tension. This looks badass. A lot of people like this movie, and I've heard a lot of praise, so I might as well try it out. And then I'm going to show off a couple of CDs. So I haven't bought CDs in a while, but I still listen to CDs in my car, so come at me. Like, I don't care. And I'm kind of embarrassed to show these, but I got Pink and Saliva. Both of these I've listened to a lot. So I just saw those for cheap, had to get them. And then I've got one TV season. I got Family Guy, or I guess it's Volume 2. It's not Season 2. Family Guy was weird with their DVDs because they didn't do it by season. They did it by volume, which is really stupid. This is all Season 3, and Volume 1 was Seasons 1 and 2, so I don't get it. But I just needed that because I'm going to rewatch Family Guy. And then the last 4 I got are all Scream Factory releases. So, first one I got was David Cronenberg's Rabid, which I have not seen yet. Really, really enjoy Cronenberg's movies, so I had to get this. I watched a good amount last year of his movies. I saw Scanners for the first time. There's another one that I've got. Shivers I bought, and I watched. Shivers was good. And then also there was Videodrome is what I saw last year as well. So I saw a lot of Cronenberg for the first time last year, and I enjoyed all of them. So I had to get Rabid. And then I got Silent Hill, which I have not seen. I have not played any games, but I thought this artwork was awesome, and I wanted to see this movie regardless. So Silent Hill. And then there's an Amazon 2 for 3 sale where you buy 2 or you buy 3 and you get them for the price of 2. And I got 2 of them in the mail. There's one more I'm getting next in the mail in a couple days, but that'll be on my next pickups video. But the 2 I got are They Live, which I needed this, and I know they got the 4K, but I just thought, I just want this. I don't care. It's okay. I like the artwork to this a lot. And then I got Candyman Farewell to the Flesh, which is the second Candyman. I have seen before, I liked, but I haven't rewatched it in a while, so cool to get these. Like I said, I almost got most of the Carpenter movies, and then I got both Candymans now. They haven't released 3 on Scream Factory, and I have not actually seen Candyman 3. I hear that one is not good. I hear that one's terrible, but I have not seen it to really say if it is for me personally. But yeah, like I said, a lot of pickups. Just a lot of stuff this month, so I thought I might as well condense it all here. And there you guys go. So we'll keep going with the reviews. So stay tuned for more reviews later on, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.